Hurricane Sam has re-strengthened to a 140-mile-per-hour hurricane at this current time, so it has re-strengthened even some more. So we had the latest on it according to NHC. At 11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the eye of Hurricane Sam was located near latitude 18.4 degrees north, longitude 55.6 degrees west. Sam is moving towards the northwest near 9 miles per hour, and this general motion with an increase of forward speed is expected during the next couple of days. A turn towards the north is forecast by Friday. On the forecast track, Sam will pass well to the east and northeast of the Leeward Islands through Wednesday. Maximum sustained winds are near 140 miles per hour with higher gusts. Sam is now a Category 4 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. Some fluctuations in intensity are expected during the next couple of days, but Sam is forecast to remain a major hurricane through late this week. Tropical storm force winds extend 140 miles from the center, and hurricane force 40 miles from the center. The pressure has dropped some more to 944 millibars. It was 947 earlier, now it's 944. So, this is the latest tracks, this is the latest intensity. We will cover both of those real quickly, but we'll start with the intensity since we now have a hurricane that's at 140 miles per hour. I did say what I thought 130 was the cap, but if it wanted to, it could go up to 140. Well, it has gone up to 140 miles per hour, and at that point, I don't think this hurricane is going to intensify anymore at this point. Could it possibly? Potentially, but that's a pretty low chance of that happening, especially as it moves further north in less favorable conditions. So this is a 140-mile-per-hour hurricane. The majority of the models agree that this thing is going to start leveling off and start weakening as very slowly down to a Cat 3 and then to a Cat 2. As the majority of them have it at Cat 2 or Cat 1 a week out. Some have it going out down to tropical storm, which it would be a good thing if it did that, considering how intense this hurricane has been the last several days. So, yeah. Some models have it going up to 155 miles per hour, which I hate to break it to you guys, it's not going to happen. 140, in my opinion, is where it's likely going to be at its strongest. I said 140 was probably was possible, but I thought 130 was the cap. Well, I think this hurricane is either going to A, level off, which that's the more likely scenario, or B, strengthen just a little bit more, which let's hope that doesn't happen. So there's that. Let's go to the tracks. The models are still in agreement. It's like they're really tight in agreement all the way 5 days out. So yeah, it looks like that model just had just spinning across Newfoundland. They finally corrected it. So there we have it. The majority of the models have it moving way east of Newfoundland, while some of them have it moving more towards the west, giving Newfoundland some impacts. So that's something to keep an eye on. It's a little early to really say, but there it is right there. We can also go to the cone, and that pretty much confirms this. This as the cone has it far east from Nova Scotia, far east from Newfoundland. It has it turning. If it goes in a straight line, it'll just cruise far away from Newfoundland. Bermuda's right here. They're going to see some surf up from this, but they're probably at this point not very likely going to see any of the outer bands of the hurricane at this point. That's probably what's going to happen. The possibility still lingers, but it's becoming lesser and lesser as the days go on. Also, like I said, the surf is the only threat. Swells generated by Sam will impact the Leeward Islands during the next several days. Swells are expected to reach Bermuda and the Bahamas in a couple of days and then spread to the United States East Coast late this week. These swells could cause life-threatening surf and rip current conditions. Please consult your local weather office. So, if you're in Bahamas or Bermuda, I would start consulting them tomorrow. I would consult your local officials tomorrow. But if you're in the U.S., you start consulting your local officials on Thursday, just to make sure rip currents aren't going to be too big of an issue at that point. So, yeah, swells and hurricanes generally spread out hundreds of miles, sometimes thousands of miles. For example, there was a hurricane last year that was I believe, a high-end Cat 4 hurricane in the eastern Atlantic, and it was so strong it generated swells all the way to the United States East Coast. So that's how powerful these hurricanes are. So yeah, that's basically the latest. This the satellite imagery right here that I cleared out, but that's ice kind of being hidden in some cloud tops. There's some -70s right here. Although the southern part of this hurricane, in the core and everything, is starting to fade at that point. That those cloud tops aren't looking as well defined and soft as they have been. So yeah, that's probably because of the fact that it's moving a little more towards the north, but also could be. It's also there's several hypotheses to that, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. But it's pretty interesting that the hurricane at this point, this part of it doesn't is recede. The part of it is receding, so I think it's pretty interesting. We can go on the true color zoomed out. There it is right there. There's that eye. It's kind of starting to fill in a little bit. So there's that core right there. You can see it right there. So yeah, this thing's a fish in the Atlantic, and it's very intense, which really makes it a good case study to look at this point, because this hurricane is basically this whole Sam is just proves how resilient hurricanes can be, because Sam was at a 150-mile-per-hour hurricane. It then lost some of its structure. It then crashed down to 120 miles per hour, and now it's strengthening again to 140. So, yeah, that's actually pretty impressive for this thing to do that, and it's making a bit of a comeback, to say at the very least. Now, if this was making a comeback on its way, making a comeback and about to hit the Leeward Islands, that would be pretty bad. But since this is just going to stay out to sea throughout its entire life, it's a pretty good hurricane to observe. Honestly, it really shows you how powerful Mother Nature can be. It really is intriguing to see what kind of thing what kind of thing Mother Nature can really concoct. So yeah, that's honestly this whole journey, this whole saga of Hurricane Sam has really showed to a lot of people, especially on this channel, like how powerful hurricanes can be. How if the conditions are perfect, hurricanes can really strengthen. And this is a good case study because this isn't making landfall anywhere. So this is just, and even though this isn't making landfall anywhere, it's still a hurricane, a good hurricane to observe. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. So anyway, let's go to the few key takeaways we have before we close out tonight. First key takeaway, it's back to 140 miles per hour. It's back where it was a few days ago, but it's likely at this point not going to strengthen anymore. If it does, 145, and that's it. It's not going to go back to 150. It's not going to go back to 155. Hell, I hope it doesn't go to 155. But yeah, I think 140 to 145 is where it's going to end up at its secondary peak before it starts weakening. Heck, the NHC has it at its maximum right here. So yeah, that's pretty much it. There's no change in the hurricane force winds. Pressure has dropped to 944 millibars, so keep that in mind. That second key takeaway, the cone, as it's still moving towards the northwest, and then it starts making that turn around Thursday and Friday, and then to the northwest over the weekend, and it's going to basically remain at sea. It's not going to really impact anywhere. So yeah, the Leeward Islands, all you're going to see is some swelling, some in the ocean, some surf. Same with Bermuda, same with Bahamas, same with Puerto Rico, same with the Dominican Republic potentially, and same with the east coast of the U.S. So yeah, that's the second key takeaway. It also ties into this. We can use that as the models right here are very tightly packed, which means they're huge, very huge in agreement. So yeah, it's the second key takeaway. Third key takeaway, it's at 140 miles per hour. Some models have it strengthening even more, which I think if it does, it'll only go up to 145. Some of these have it going up to 155. That's not going to happen. If it does, I'll be shocked. But it's basically not going to happen. 145 is where it could go if it really wanted to strengthen some more, but that's about it. That's where it levels off. But in the majority of the models have it weakening down to a Cat 3, then a Cat 2, then a Cat 1, and some have it going down to tropical storm strength in a week out. So I really hope that happens because of how powerful this hurricane has been. Final key takeaway of the night for Sam is that this hurricane looks, the eye is hidden under some cloud tops, but the eye wall of it looks better than it has, especially with that -70 ring starting to come back, which really explains to you from a satellite visual why this thing is strengthening. It's because it's getting better organized. So yeah, another interesting thing is that this part of the hurricane is just kind of faded away. It's kind of receding. So anything outside of the core is just not really the stronger part of it, at least to the south of it, at least. So yeah, like I said before, this is just an interesting hurricane to study, honestly, because even though it's not making landfall, it's still a good case study to show how powerful Mother Nature can be. So yeah, that'll be it for Hurricane Sam. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more updates.